Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Miha. Welcome to the channel. I know it's been a while since we posted a video, but our summer semester was wrapping up, so things have been really busy. In fact, today I want to cover a topic that I got a lot of questions about from my students and a few of my colleagues. And this is around something called speaker diarization, or the ability of AI tools to create transcript from recordings and identify specific speakers. In order to test this, I created a recording with my TA Valentino where we did some casual small talk about restaurants. And at one point, I asked him to heavily mumble a response so we could really push these tools to see how well they perform. We then ran this recording through a number of AI tools, and the results were mixed. I will highlight the tools that gave us the best responses. The first one is Assembly AI. Now, Assembly AI did a good job of catching the core of our conversation, but once we got to the mumble part, it cut off and it got a little bit confused. It did pick up speakers correctly afterwards, though. A few of my students also told me they use something called Otter AI. So we tried Otter AI, and the results were similar. It started off capturing our conversation well. Once we got to the mumbling part, it got a little bit confused, and then it wasn't able to quite pick up the speaker track correctly. In other words, it confused Valentino and myself after the mumbles. We also tried something called TurboScribe. This is a tool that somebody online had recommended, and as well, it cut off the mumbling part. It did a little bit better picking up speakers afterwards than Otter AI did, but it also clearly struggled when speech was not clear. Finally, I ran the recording through NotebookLM, and I asked it to create a transcript and identify speakers. Once again, it cut off the mumble part. It just put in 3 dots. It realized it could not figure out what that was, but it did keep the speakers straight. So it knew who was speaking at which point, even after the mumbles. Now, we also used a different tool that Valentina uses. This is called Plaud AI. Now, Plaud AI develops its own hardware as well. It's a credit card size tool, a little bit thicker than credit card. It records audio, and then you can upload it to your phone or computer directly into the cloud where it stores your recordings. It has a bunch of built-in templates, which is really great. And we told it to use a standard template and create transcripts. And so here's what it did. It also cut off the mumbles, it got confused, and it didn't quite pick up the speakers afterwards. Now, Plaud AI does one other cool thing, though. It does give you a summary at the end of the transcript, and it did point out that here was a meeting between 2 people. You had discussed trying out a new burger, but you did not assign a date for an action item. In other words, we didn't agree when I was going to try the burger that Valentino had recommended. So I thought that summary was quite interesting to add at the end. So why do AI tools struggle with this speech diarization concept? Well, one, our speech is variable. We don't have a consistent way of speaking. Sometimes we speak quicker, sometimes we speak slower, sometimes we're loud, sometimes we're quieter. And so AI sometimes struggles with this. It also has a hard time with some of our speech patterns when they're interrupted by things like laughing, mumbling, coughing, for example. All of that can throw off those patterns. It's important to note that AI doesn't really know who's speaking. It's using something called unsupervised clustering. And so what it does is it listens to our speech and then tries to pick out similar pieces. So it says, well, in this recording, these pieces sound the same, so it's probably the same speaker. This can be thrown off if speakers talk over each other, which often happens in our speech. If somebody mumbles, again, there's laughing, coughing, or any other kind of background interruption, that may make it harder to identify these patterns or might confuse those patterns. Now, there is some really cool technology coming out now that's trying to get around this. There's something called multimodal diarization, and this uses videos, our faces, right, with our audio. So AI tries to see whose lips are moving and then tries to match that to the audio. So there are ways around this, but these tools are still in development. Many of these companies, though, in fact, all that we tested claim accuracy 90% or even higher. This was likely achieved in pretty controlled lab-like settings where speakers did not talk over each other, they enunciated clearly, they spoke slowly. recordings were good, done with very high quality microphones, and there was probably little background noise. So, is it worth investing in these tools? I think the answer is it depends. If you do a lot of recordings, if you record a lot of meetings, for example, lectures, interviews, focus groups, then these tools may be helpful to speed up the transcription process. But I would still caution to one, always check the accuracy of these tools. As you saw in the short video, they do a decent job, but they're not perfect. So if you are using a transcription for direct quotation, for example, you're writing an article and you want to say, hey, somebody said this, and you want to have it verbatim, please make sure you check the recordings on your own, and best practice, check with the person you were interviewing to make sure that you really capture their words correctly. And then two, we know that laws are different across states and certainly countries around what kind of recording is allowed and under what conditions. So please make sure that you have informed consent from anyone you're recording. Have you used these types of tools before? And if so, have you found ones that performed exceptionally well, at least in your use cases? If so, please let us know in the comments below. I would love to know if you've had good experiences with these tools, and maybe we'll do a future video on ones that are more accurate or that you found particularly useful. Thank you so much for watching the video. Again, if you enjoyed the content, consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.